G'day and welcome. I'm so glad you've taken the time to listen to this story. Whether you're here for the journey or to help you drift off to sleep, I truly appreciate it. This story will be released in parts, with about 4 chapters at a time, so if you're tuning in early, you might need to wait for the next chapters to be released. No matter what brings you here, whether it's to relax or to dive into the story, I'm chuffed to have you along. I hope you find it intriguing and relaxing enough to come back for more. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride. A new beginning. The days following Amelia's decision seemed to take on a different hue. The air felt fresher, the sky wider, and the little moments in Longreach, chatting with parents at the local cafe, laughing with her students during class, or wandering the town's quiet streets, seemed imbued with a warmth she hadn't fully noticed before. Amelia threw herself into life in Longreach with renewed energy. She joined the planning committee for the annual town fair, her creativity shining as she suggested ideas that blended the traditions of the outback with fun, modern twists. She even started a Saturday morning art club for her students, drawing inspiration from the rugged beauty of the surrounding landscape. Her colleagues at the school noticed the shift. "You're glowing, Amelia," Margaret teased one afternoon, leaning against the staff room counter with a cup of tea in hand. "It's like you finally settled into the rhythm here." Amelia smiled, stirring a teaspoon of honey into her tea. "I think I have. It feels good to have made the decision, you know? Like I can stop second-guessing myself and just be here." The weekends became a mix of community events and quiet moments with Jayden. They spent hours working on small projects around his family's property, repairing fences, planting trees, and even painting the old shed. Amelia discovered she had a knack for wielding a paintbrush and a newfound appreciation for the satisfaction of hard physical work. One Sunday afternoon, Jayden drove her to a secluded spot on the property, a small hill overlooking rolling fields that stretched endlessly toward the horizon. He'd packed a picnic in the back of the ute, complete with a thermos of tea, sandwiches, and a bag of homemade Anzac biscuits. As they sat under the shade of a lone gum tree, the soft hum of cicadas filling the air, Amelia found herself reflecting on how far she'd come. "I don't think I could have imagined this life a year ago," she said, her gaze drifting across the fields. "It's slower, quieter, but in all the right ways." Jayden leaned back on his elbows, his hat tipped low over his forehead. "It suits you," he said simply. "You're a part of this place now, Amelia. Whether it's helping out at the fair or just being here with me, it feels right." His words filled her with a quiet contentment, but it was his actions later that evening that truly caught her off guard. As they returned to the main house, the sun dipping low on the horizon, Jayden asked her to wait by the veranda. Curious, Amelia watched as he disappeared inside, returning moments later with something in his hands. It was a small wooden box, its surface polished to a rich sheen. "What's this?" she asked, her brow furrowing slightly as he placed it in her hands. "Open it," Jayden said, his voice warm and steady. Inside, nestled on a bed of soft fabric, was a delicate silver bracelet. It wasn't flashy or ornate, but its simplicity was beautiful. Hanging from the center was a single charm, a tiny engraved heart with a small sapphire embedded in the middle. "It's not an engagement ring," Jayden said quickly, his cheeks tinged with a faint blush. "But it's a promise that I'm here, Amelia, for the long haul. Whatever comes next, wherever this takes us, I'm by your side." Amelia's eyes filled with tears as she looked up at him, her heart swelling with emotion. "Jayden," she whispered, her voice trembling. "It's perfect. Thank you." She slipped the bracelet onto her wrist, the charm catching the fading light as Jayden took her hands in his. "We'll take it one step at a time," he said softly. "But I want you to know, you're not alone in this. We're in it together." As the sun disappeared behind the hills and the first stars began to emerge, Amelia felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. Longreach wasn't just a place where she lived, it was a place where she had found herself, her purpose, and her partner. It wasn't just a new beginning for Amelia, it was a new beginning for them both, a promise of all the adventures and challenges yet to come. And for the first time in her life, Amelia felt not just content, but truly, deeply home. Strength in community. The early morning sun filtered through the curtains as Amelia woke to the sound of birds chirping outside her window. Today was the first of many planning meetings for the upcoming Longreach Town Fair, and as one of the main organisers, Amelia felt equal parts excitement and nerves. The fair was a cherished tradition, a celebration of everything the town stood for: community, resilience, and the vibrant spirit of the outback. At the meeting in the community hall, a diverse group of locals had gathered: farmers, teachers, shop owners, and even some students eager to lend a hand. As Amelia laid out her ideas on a whiteboard, craft stalls, a student art exhibition, a pie-eating contest, she was met with enthusiastic nods and the occasional suggestion. "You're a natural at this," Margaret whispered, leaning over with a grin. Amelia smiled, but a flicker of doubt remained. Could she really pull this off? As the weeks rolled on, Amelia found herself immersed in the fair's planning. She coordinated with vendors, helped students prepare their art and performances, and worked closely with local farmers to set up livestock displays. The work was fulfilling, but it wasn't without challenges. A disagreement erupted between the Harrisons and the Brooks, two prominent families in Longreach, over whose stall should get the prime spot near the stage. The argument grew heated, with both sides calling on Amelia to mediate. Amelia felt a pang of anxiety as she stood between the two groups, their raised voices echoing in the meeting room. "Let's all take a breath," she said, raising her hands in a calming gesture. She listened to each family's perspective and, after some deliberation, proposed a compromise. The Harrisons would take the spot this year, while the Brooks would have it the following year. To sweeten the deal, she suggested a shared promotion for their stalls to ensure both families got plenty of foot traffic. As they nodded in agreement, Amelia felt a swell of pride. She was learning how to navigate the delicate balance of small-town dynamics, where relationships ran deep and conflicts were best resolved with fairness and care. While Amelia juggled fair preparations, Jayden faced his own challenges. An unusually dry season had put pressure on the family property, and he spent long days ensuring their cattle had enough water and feed. One evening, Amelia found him in the barn, his shoulders hunched as he fixed a broken fence post. She set down the thermos of tea she'd brought and knelt beside him. "How's it going?" she asked gently. Jayden sighed, running a hand through his dusty hair. "It's tough. The land's not giving us much to work with this year." Amelia placed a hand on his arm. "You've got this. And if there's anything I can do, just say the word." Her quiet support brought a small smile to his face. "You already are, just by being here." They spent the next hour together, talking about their days and sharing small moments of comfort. It was in these moments, amid the dust and challenges, that their bond grew stronger. As the fair drew closer, the pieces began to fall into place. The town's main street was strung with colourful bunting, the stage was erected, and volunteers bustled about, preparing stalls and attractions. The day before the fair, Amelia stood back and took in the scene. It wasn't just the event that filled her with pride, it was the people who had come together to make it happen. "Looks like it's going to be a good one," Margaret said, joining her. Amelia nodded, her heart swelling with gratitude. "It's not just me. It's everyone. That's what makes it special." That evening, Amelia and Jayden sat on the porch of his family's house, watching the sun dip below the horizon. "You've done something amazing here," Jayden said, his voice warm. Amelia looked at him, her heart full. "We've done something amazing. This is our community." As the stars began to twinkle above them, Amelia felt a deep sense of belonging. The fair was more than just an event. It was a celebration of the life she was building in Longreach, surrounded by people who had become family, and she wouldn't trade it for anything. An unexpected visitor. The dusty road leading into Longreach shimmered under the midday sun as Amelia stood by the school gates, watching a familiar car pull into view. Her parents had finally taken her up on her invitation to visit, bringing with them a piece of the life she had left behind in Noosa. Her heart was a mix of excitement and nervousness. She longed to show them the world she had come to love, but she knew they didn't fully understand why she had chosen it in the first place. When the car came to a stop, her mother stepped out first, looking cautiously at the quiet streets of Longreach. Her father followed, squinting at the vast open sky. "Amelia!" her mother called, a warm smile breaking through her reserved expression as she opened her arms. "Hi, Mum! Dad!" Amelia hurried to them, wrapping her arms around her mother before turning to embrace her father. As she pulled back, her mother's eyes swept over her. "You look happy," she said, though the slight furrow in her brow hinted at questions bubbling beneath the surface. "I am," Amelia replied, determined to show them the beauty of her life here. "Come on, let's get you settled in." She drove them to her modest cottage, the car bouncing slightly on the uneven dirt roads. Her parents took in the landscape, the golden fields stretching to the horizon, the clusters of gum trees providing occasional shade, and the small but vibrant community Amelia now called home. "This is it," Amelia said as they stepped into her house. It wasn't flashy, but it was hers, a space filled with warmth and personal touches. Her father glanced around, nodding slowly. "It's quaint." Amelia smiled, sensing the unspoken adjustment they were making. "Wait until you see the town. It's got so much character." Later that afternoon, Amelia gave her parents a tour of Longreach. They visited the local cafe, where Margaret greeted them with a cheerful "G'day," and the school, where her parents marveled at the creative projects adorning the walls. "This is where you work?" her mother asked, running her fingers along a colourful mural. "It is," Amelia said proudly. "These kids are incredible. They've taught me as much as I've taught them." Her father nodded, his expression softening. "You've done well here, Amelia." The real test came that evening, when Amelia brought her parents to Jayden's family property for dinner. The sprawling land was a world away from the polished beaches and bustling streets of Noosa, but it held a quiet beauty that Amelia had grown to treasure. Jayden greeted them with his easy smile, shaking hands firmly with her father and greeting her mother with a polite nod. "It's a pleasure to meet you both," he said, his sincerity shining through. "Amelia's spoken so much about you." Her parents were polite but reserved, clearly assessing the man who had become such an important part of their daughter's life. Over dinner, Jayden shared stories of the land, its challenges, its rewards, and its deep connection to the community. "It's hard work," her father said, setting down his fork, "but I can see why you love it." Jayden nodded. "It is, but it's worth it, especially when you've got someone like Amelia by your side. She's incredible." Amelia felt her cheeks flush, her heart swelling with gratitude. Jayden's words seemed to ease some of her parents' apprehension, but she could tell they still had questions. After dinner, the conversation drifted to quieter topics and the atmosphere grew more relaxed. Her mother, who had been a little reserved at first, now leaned in, her eyes warm. "You've really made something of yourself here, Amelia," she said softly. "This life, it's different, but it seems to suit you." Amelia smiled, taking a deep breath. "It's different, yes, but I'm happy. I feel like I've found where I'm supposed to be." Her father nodded, though there was still a hint of uncertainty in his expression. "I don't doubt that, sweetheart, but don't forget where you came from. Your roots are in Noosa." "I won't forget, Dad," Amelia said, her voice steady. "But being here doesn't mean I've left everything behind. I carry all of you with me every day. I think about you all the time." Her mother reached across the table, taking her hand in a rare gesture of affection. "We just want you to be sure, darling. Sure that this life, this quieter life, is what you really want. That it's not just temporary." Amelia's heart ached at the concern in her mother's voice. She had always been the pragmatic one, the one who worried over details and logistics. But Amelia knew deep down that this wasn't about logic. It was about her heart, and she had made the choice to follow it here. "It's not temporary," Amelia said softly. "This is where I want to be. I've built a life here with Jayden, with the people in this town. It feels like home, and I've never been more certain of anything." Her father was quiet for a long moment, his gaze fixed on the land outside the window. Finally, he spoke. "We can see that. You've grown up, Amelia, and as much as we miss you, we want you to be happy. We just didn't know if this place could give you everything you need." Amelia felt the weight of her parents' words, but she also knew she had to stand firm in her decision. "It has, more than I ever thought possible. This place has given me a sense of purpose, of belonging. I have a career I'm proud of, a community that supports me, and someone, Jayden, who makes me feel like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be." Jayden smiled at her, his hand subtly brushing against hers, a quiet reassurance. It was all she needed to feel grounded. She turned to him, her heart swelling with gratitude. She could feel the unspoken bond between them, stronger than any words could convey. Her mother's eyes softened, and she nodded slowly. "I can see that, and I can't deny that Jayden seems to be a good influence on you, Amelia. I've never seen you so at peace with your choices." Amelia's heart skipped a beat at her mother's approval, and her father spoke up again, a rare smile playing on his lips. "Well, if you're happy here, then I suppose we'll just have to get used to it. Just promise us you won't forget about us, huh?" Amelia laughed softly, tears welling up in her eyes. "I promise, Dad. I'll never forget you." The night ended with more stories, laughter, and moments of understanding. Her parents, though still a little apprehensive, had begun to see the depth of Amelia's commitment to this new life. The tension had eased, and for the first time, they seemed to truly accept her choice. As she said goodbye to her parents the next morning, her mother hugged her tightly. "I'm proud of you, Amelia, and I'm glad to see you so happy. But remember, you're always welcome to visit whenever you need a reminder of where you came from." Amelia smiled, feeling a weight lift from her shoulders. "Thanks, Mum. I think you'll see more of me than you expect." With that, her parents left Longreach, leaving behind a feeling of peace in their wake. Amelia knew the journey ahead wouldn't always be easy, but she also knew that she had made the right choice. The life she had built in Longreach with Jayden by her side was the future she had chosen. And in that moment, she felt more sure than ever that she was exactly where she was meant to be. The fair and the future. The day of the town fair arrived with the kind of excitement that could only be found in a small town where everyone knew each other. Amelia stood in the middle of the bustling grounds, taking in the vibrant displays of local artwork, the laughter of children running through games, and the hum of live music filling the air. There was a sense of pride that radiated from every corner of Longreach today, and she could feel it deep in her bones. Her students, excited and beaming with pride, had taken center stage for their performance, which had been rehearsed for weeks. As they sang and danced, their energy was contagious, their joy lighting up the crowd. Amelia stood at the edge of the stage, clapping and cheering with the other parents and teachers. Seeing them all come together like this, so full of life, so full of promise, was a reward in itself. It wasn't just the students who had contributed to the fair's success. The walls of the community hall were adorned with colourful paintings, sculptures and crafts created by local artists, some of whom Amelia had come to know over her time in Longreach. The artwork told the stories of the town, its landscapes, its people, its traditions, and she could see the passion in every stroke and every piece. It was more than just a collection of art. It was a reflection of the town's spirit, and she felt honored to be a part of it. As the fair continued, Amelia moved from one corner of the grounds to another, helping out where she could, always finding someone to connect with. She spoke with parents of her students, chatted with the artists about their work, and helped coordinate the games for the younger children. Each interaction, each smile made her feel even more at home. This was her life now. This was her community. It wasn't long before Jayden found her, a mischievous grin spreading across his face. "You've been everywhere today," he teased, stepping up beside her. Amelia laughed, wiping her brow. "I think I've officially done every job possible, but it's been amazing. Everyone's come together to make this happen." Jayden nodded, his gaze sweeping over the fair. "It's a good thing you're the one in charge," he said. "You've really made a difference here, Amelia." Her heart warmed at his words. She had worked hard to make the fair a success, and it felt good to see everything come together. But it wasn't just the fair that had made her feel like a part of Longreach. It was the entire experience of living here, growing here, and sharing these moments with the people she had come to love. As the evening wore on, Jayden led her to the center of the fairground. Amelia was puzzled until she saw a crowd begin to gather. The local band had just finished their set, and the mayor stepped up to the microphone, welcoming everyone and thanking them for their participation. But then, unexpectedly, Jayden stepped forward, a slight nervousness in his posture. Amelia's heart skipped. She looked at him in surprise, unsure of what was happening. The mayor smiled and motioned to Jayden. "And now I'd like to introduce someone who's had an incredible impact on our town this year. Jayden, would you like to say a few words?" The crowd murmured with curiosity as Jayden took the microphone. Amelia's stomach fluttered with anticipation. "Thanks, everyone," Jayden said, his voice steady despite the obvious nerves. "I just wanted to take a moment to thank someone who's been a huge part of making this fair and so much more possible. You all know her as a teacher, a friend, and now a real force in our community. But to me, she's someone who's changed my life in ways I never expected." Amelia's breath caught in her throat as Jayden looked directly at her. His eyes were filled with sincerity and admiration, and she could feel the weight of the moment. "You've brought so much to Longreach, Amelia. Your passion, your care for the kids, and the way you've made this place your home. It's something I truly admire. You've become an irreplaceable part of this town, and I'm proud to stand by your side as you build the life you've always deserved." A lump formed in Amelia's throat, and she felt tears welling up in her eyes. Jayden's words were more than she could have hoped for. She hadn't expected this public acknowledgement, but it meant the world to her. The crowd cheered and clapped, and she found herself overwhelmed with gratitude. As Jayden stepped down, he walked toward her, his smile soft and loving. "I meant every word," he whispered, his hand slipping into hers. Amelia squeezed his hand, the emotions rushing through her. "Thank you, Jayden," she said, her voice thick with feeling. "You have no idea how much this means to me." The rest of the evening passed in a blur, with the two of them joining the celebrations, surrounded by their friends and the people they had come to care about. As the sun set over the fairground, the lights twinkling above them, Amelia took a moment to reflect on everything she had experienced. She had started this journey unsure of where she belonged, torn between two lives. But now, standing in the heart of Longreach, surrounded by people who had become family, she realized that this was the place she was meant to be. Later that night, after the fair had wrapped up and the last of the crowds had dispersed, Jayden and Amelia found themselves alone on the porch of his family's house. The night was cool, the stars bright overhead. Jayden pulled her close, his arm wrapped around her shoulder as they both gazed up at the sky. "You did it, you know," he said quietly. "You made this town proud." Amelia smiled, leaning into him. "We did it. We've built something together." "We have," Jayden agreed, his voice full of conviction, "and I'm excited for what comes next." As they stood there, the cool breeze tussling her hair, Amelia couldn't help but feel a sense of peace settle over her. For the first time in a long time, she felt truly at home, not just in Longreach, but in the life she had created here. With Jayden by her side, she knew they could face whatever the future held, together. Thank you so much for giving your time and attention to this part of the story. It means the world to me. If you enjoyed the journey so far, please take a moment to share your thoughts in the comments. What parts resonated with you? Did anything stand out, make you laugh, or move you? If you have feedback on ways I can improve or ideas for future stories, I'd love to hear them. Your insights not only help me grow as a storyteller, but also inspire new adventures to explore. Until we meet again in the next part of this tale, I wish you relaxation, peacefulness, and moments of joy in your own journey.